This has to do with temples. And again, two very upsetting stories for me today, the revelation and the final results on the Cody temple decision. So I'm trying to hold it together, but it's been, I'm putting these slides together. It's been rough. So this is interesting. This came out before the Cody, Wyoming temple decision. So this is the city administrator, Barry Cook. There he is with some kind of, looks like chocolate and caramel sauce at a party. And the headline of the article says, the Cody city administrator will retire after 45 years of public service and 11 years with the city at the end of June. So he's been there a long time. When saying that he was proud of his life's work and his ability to build collaborative, effective teams, Cook said he wishes, okay, keep in mind, this is after 45 years of public service. The one thing he wishes is that he had taken a more aggressive approach to the permitting of the LDS temple. This is the black mark to him. This is his regret after 45 years of public service. And in retrospect, the city administrator said he should have asked the former city planner to recuse himself from the permitting process. Yes, he should have. Sorry, I'm probably going to yell through this whole thing. But again, this is the scenario of the inside man. No normal person in a town or city government can imagine that there's somebody in their ranks who has a higher allegiance and has actually taken an oath to further the interests of something else other than the town, right? We saw this with Mitt Romney when he was running for president, and people question that. When you have somebody who has taken an oath, who is LDS in city government, there is this scenario where they are working to further the purposes of the church. And we saw this in Cody. And this is why everything went so badly in Cody. The city planner was a very trusted individual. He was giving information to the planning and zoning board. And because of this manipulation, alleged, this is why we're in the situation we are here. So he goes on to say in the article, the highs and the lows, with the exception of a few issues over the 11 years he had lived and worked in Cody, Cook says his experience had gone well. One thing he wishes he had handled differently, okay, I already read that, was the permitting of the temple. It was in the realm of the planning and zoning board, but applying for a variance, knowing the former city planner, processing that variance and running it through the system was a Mormon by his religion, I knew there was going to be a perceived conflict of interest between him and the issue. Cook recalled, it was not perceived. It was real, allegedly. I talked to him at the very beginning and I told him, you are going to have to be very careful in how you present this. He assured me that he would remain neutral and not be biased, said Cook. He assured me, but after the process got going and at the tail end, I could see very clearly that he was very biased. Hindsight, right? 2020. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, this is so frustrating. And of course, we now know that that city planner did resign and is on an LDS mission to Africa. So we talked about that on the newscast several months ago.
I trusted the Mormon that he wouldn't be biased in favor of his church.
Yes, that's what I mean. But no normal person can understand the sleeper cell quality when you are called up, right? You're called up to the big show. It's your turn to do something for the church. Mm-hmm. And you're going to do it. Cook said he felt a little betrayed with one of his department heads failing to remain impartial. Where have we heard this before? We've heard this in Fairview, where the mayor said he was very betrayed by the LDS members in the area that knew that temple was coming, knew how big it was, knew what it would mean, and never said anything because, they were the ones that invited the temple there. So, people are starting to catch on. Hindsight is 2020, he added, but if given the opportunity to do it over again, he would have removed the planner up front. So we would have had a very different outcome had that happened. Knowing now that even though he said he was going to remain neutral, he couldn't. I would have removed him. The perception was always going to be there, but I look back and kind of regret not taking a more aggressive role as far as disqualifying the city planner, he said. By taking his word for it and believing he would remain neutral when he didn't, I'm disappointed. It split the community and it still lingers here. And this is exactly what we're talking about. Cook said he also wishes the LDS Church and the community had been able to come to a better resolution on the subject of the steeple. In Tucson, Cook says there's a temple with a rounded dome. A lot of people bring this up, beautiful blue dome, and wishes that design could have been considered in Cody. So this article comes out about this gentleman's retirement and how, looking back, he can see kind of step by step what happened, that someone within city government was working for the interests of someone else. and not the city government. So interesting. Hindsight's 2020. There's nothing he can do. Any quick comments on that?
Yeah, like my creative writing teacher, Mrs. Randall, said in 11th grade, if wishes were fishes, we'd all have a fry.
That's it, exactly. And I'm not going to have you play this video, Bill, because it was just me. I got the decision from the Wyoming Supreme Court. The residents group there in Cody had gone through the district court. It hadn't gone their way. They had appealed to the Supreme Court. Their case was heard. RFM and I listened to that. It was on audio, and they were waiting for the decision, and it finally came back. So I got the decision. I made this short about it. It's so funny. People are like, well, where's the article? I'm like, there is no article. I'm the news. I'm the one that has it. Exactly. So the decision, of course, is that they agreed with the district court. And so you don't need to play this video because that's basically all I say. And agreed that, yes, the temple was passed by the P&Z board. And I'm going to have RFM weigh in just a second because I had him read the decision. But I would like to say that Cody has been a 2-year process. Mormonish podcast had barely just started when, through a viewer, some of those residents reached out to us and asked if we could help them kind of understand, what is this LDS church organization? What is happening here? And within the very first 2 months, that temple was approved, and no one knew it was approved. There were more meetings, there were more things going on. And this is what I mean by information from the city planner and the city attorney. You know, they're the ones that tell the planning and zoning board what you're voting on. Okay, you're just voting on that they can build a temple, not the height or any specifics, just that they can build, right? Planning and zoning board, very confused, voted. They did not realize that within 2 months of the LDS church first showing its rendering, they were voting on everything. They were saying yes to the height of the steeple. They're saying yes to the lighting. Because of this, you saw in Fairview how they're able to negotiate. We want this lighting, or we want this, or what about that? Cody never had a chance to do that because, according to the district court and the Supreme Court, the temple was passed. The CUP with every single thing that the church wanted was passed only 2 months into the process. And yet it went on for another 2 years because no one understood that it passed. And the reason that happens is when they're getting information and they're being confused by the inside man. So this is how it stands. I have talked to the residents and they say they support the decision. They're good, law-abiding, church-going people. And they said, we gave it what we could. We gave it 2 years. And we've done what we could, and now we support it. But again, this temple it's well underway. I've posted pictures about how bright the lights are. It's like a little city. They're just building and building. And Cody never had a chance, like Fairview, to try to say, well, let's do this, or what about the lighting? Or they never did. They passed it without even knowing it, a year before they even, realized it. So anyway, I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. Let's say that. And the one good thing that came out of Cody is that because of that, and because of people reporting, people getting involved, people talking, people posting, people like you posting about it, reposting, other cities like Fairview that come along, they're up to speed very quickly, and it can make a difference there like it has. So do you want to say anything about the decision, RFM? You had read that?
I did read it, but I don't really have anything to add.
It was pretty clear. It just passed. I mean, they just agreed with the district court that it had been passed.
The whole thing happened because the initial vote, right? There's 7 people on the board, on the city council. 2 of them are gone, leaving 5. 3 of them vote for it. 2 of them vote against. And they believe that did not pass it because they believed you had to have a majority of the entire number of the board, whether they were present or not. And 3 is not a majority of 7. When actually the freaking statute actually says you have to have a majority of the members present.
Yeah. No, that's it. And they also, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So it passed there. Now, the problem wasn't just that. The problem is that the city council did not know that they had passed it.
Exactly.
So therefore they they continued for another hearing about it for another issue several weeks down the road. And then it wasn't resolved and they did something else and they continued another few weeks down the road. Eventually they ended up passing it. Okay. The problem is that you have 30 days to file a notice of appeal. And the citizens filed their notice of appeal within 30 days of the last decision.
Right.
This is the problem. And for whatever reason,
it had been passed months earlier.
Yes.
They had no knowledge of that. They thought it was not passed. They continue to have hearings. Why would anyone file if you thought it had not passed? This is the confusion that happens with the inside man in a city. And this is what happens. A temple being built in your town is a once in a lifetime situation. These towns, it brings out these, oh my gosh, our code isn't written right, or our ordinance is weird, or we haven't thought about this, or what about voting? You're seeing that in every single town. They had no chance. They had no standing because it was all a done deal long before anybody really even realized what was happening.
These deadlines are very strictly enforced. You've got 30 days. And the problem is that they filed it within 30 days of the last order that was entered. But on appeal, and the Supreme Court agrees that it was at that earlier hearing where they had 3 to 5 and they didn't think they passed it. Actually, they had passed it. That was the end of it. And that started the 30 days ticking, which they blew totally because they hadn't even had the last hearing within 30 days.
Yeah, so, it was over in June of 23. And you know how long we've been discussing this on the newscast. We didn't even have the newscast then yet. And Mormonish, it was already over. We were beating a dead horse and no one knew it.
Right. So they blew this. The bottom line is they blew the filing period, the 30-day deadline to file their notice of appeal.
Yep. So there we go. So the temple, it has full go ahead. Like I said, it's already been being constructed, but now it has full go ahead and they can do whatever they want. There were no conditions. There was nothing. They had no chance to make any kind of stipulation to limit lights, to do anything. The church can simply build what it wants. And I just hope that it really will be a good neighbor, because you guys know how you got this in there and you should be ashamed. Sorry.
Can I advocate for a change in the law? These
so.
Deadlines have always been hard and fast. But can I suggest that there might be a change in the law to say, if a reasonable person would have concluded after, thoroughly examining all the facts and everything, that the notice of appeal didn't start ticking until this event. And they did beat that, right? Even though we're finding now in this rather complex and unusual set of circumstances that actually was here, a reasonable person could have thought later, so we're going to count this as good. I think that still takes care of the whole policy reasons for having this 30 days without being so merciless, unreasonably merciless to people who are the plaintiffs, who are just trying to file a notice of appeal and getting a higher court to make a ruling on it. Without just, cutting them off in situations where you can totally understand why it is that they would think that it hadn't started running yet.
No, it's similar in Lone Mountain too, where they said the residents were not incorporated yet, but the ruling happened so fast. But I understand, there has to be order. So anyway, you can read a lot of different articles about Cody, but that's where we stand. We are done with Cody, and the residents say, you know what? They're not going to let it steal their joy, and they support the court, and they're going to move on because they're gracious, wonderful individuals. But a lot of them are moving. That happens too.